Hi there, this is Sarah. Hi there, I'm Sarah, and this is João. We are the Inspired Draikes from Avagasso Coaching. We're going to have a simple interview today, just talking with each other, sharing some stories with each other, and we're happy to have you here with us. Please subscribe to our channel. Right now, this is the first video we have, so I don't even think we have one subscriber yet. So if you want to be that first subscriber, it will help us out a lot. So thank you for being here. Let's start our intro. So João, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about you. Why are you here in Avagasso Coaching?
Yes, my name is João. I'm from Brazil, and I relocated to the Netherlands almost 3 years ago. And I moved here searching for a better quality of life, both within work hours and also outside. And I was really surprised with what I found here. And when I reflect back on the moments where I felt more joy and fulfillment at work, were those moments where I helped others. And it can be really anything. If it was a project that I'm working on, or that big product that I helped, or that big team challenge that I had in my plate. And at the end of the day, after even working extra hours, people came to me acknowledging that my efforts made a change in the project, but also in their lives. These moments, they feel good. And I want more of them to me and also to other people. Whenever I'm trying to help someone, I really put myself in their position, trying to understand their thoughts and feelings. And this is just natural to me. What I have just mentioned are two of my core values that are empathy and help others. And if we think about Avagasso Coaching, the mission of Avagasso Coaching itself is to release the talent and hidden power in everyone, right?
Yeah.
And joining Avagasso Coaching after you showed me your ideas, Sarah, purpose, the goals, it was just natural. I mean, if we really think about the conversation that we had, we didn't have this formal invitation like, hey, here is the proposal and let's just talk about it. When we realized about the conversation we were having, we were already there sharing the dream and talking about how to achieve these goals. And here we are in the same journey together. Right, Sarah?
Yeah. So Avagasso Coaching, the journey's been a bit longer for me. Back in January 2022, I set a goal for myself to try and create my first online course and invite people to it and see if they bite, if they liked the content or if it was interesting. At the time, I was feeling quite insecure that it would flop. that this idea that I had wouldn't work. People wouldn't like it. I guess that's the imposter that sometimes is inside of me. But actually, people were really liking it and wanting more of it. And in 2022, I think I gave a total of 15 free courses online and in person around the topics of liberating structures, agility, the what and the how and the why. And my latest course is finding your core and moving forward with worthy goals. And as part of these sessions I had with people, they were asking me, "Hey, Sarah, I would listen to you on a podcast. And why don't you do something like this?" And I was feeling quite insecure, to be honest, because I still have this dreaded vision of me standing on the Code Motion stage with the wavering voice and being nervous and thinking like, how could I put myself out there like that? There's going to be all of these people that are going to judge me and think, why is she speaking? Why should we listen to her? And I don't know. I started to step back and take a look at the evidence in the room. People were feeling liberated. People were feeling empowered. They told me that I lit a fire in their soul and they wanted more of it. So maybe I should have a bit more confidence in myself and just do it. So this year, I decided I'm going to make Avagasso Coaching a real company. And we happened to be talking with each other. You were over at my house just for some other reason, just to chat, to catch up. Used to be in my team. I was your manager. And I don't know, the conversation, like you said, was so natural. We, for some reason in that conversation, realized how much of our core values overlap. And not just core values, but our vision for the future and what we want to do. You mentioned helping people makes you feel energized. For me, what I love is when I'm no longer needed, because I'm a complexity buster. I've been doing that my whole life. People tell me their stories, what's going on in their life, and I'm somehow able to see it from an outside perspective, and I connect the lines and the overarching themes. And I simplify it. And I see the person that's standing in the middle of their story. And I'm able to make them the hero of their story and come alive. And it's something that I have been doing my whole life with, let's say, kids in my school or friends when I was younger. And as I have been progressing through this leadership journey, now I'm past my mid-40s. I've had some coaches, mentors, teachers along the way, learning tools and skills to help people even feel more empowered. It's just so natural to me. And I want to do more of it. I love it when I am coaching you or I am your leader. And then one day I start a new adventure. Maybe I help someone else and I'm able to step away from you, knowing that you don't need me anymore. You have come alive. A fire has been lit in your soul and it will stay lit. Once liberated, you can't be unliberated. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I really liked what you shared, Sarah. That's really gold. And if I really reflect on it, that's how I ended up here, right? Because I was liberated. And I know how it feels. And just like I mentioned before, I want other people to feel it also. If I reflect back on my career, all the companies that I had, and it was a daily thing, and I think most of the people can recognize these situations. You have meetings and you have these boring presentations. You sometimes, or actually very often, you don't feel heard. You don't feel respected. Perhaps you don't feel like you have a voice. You have diversity in the company, but it's not valued the right way. And it's funny because I struggled, right? I was in those meetings and it was a big part of my days for years. And whenever I felt bad, I would think that this discomfort, this pressure, it was somehow my fault. Was it a lack of seniority? Was it lack of initiative, perhaps? Why am I not speaking up? Or, I mean, should I talk louder, trying to be heard? And after we've worked together for quite some time, right, Sarah? And you introduced these changes in the teams to really unleash everyone. And that made me realize that it is very often that the problem, like, it's not me, it's not you, it's the process, and people don't question the process. And that's when I learned the power of having a good facilitation and to make a real balance out of the diversity that you have in that room. You have introverts, you have extroverts, you have people from all corners of the world in the same room. And we have different values and we need to make the most out of it. And it was just a waste of time, a waste of resources. And that's when you joined the company and you started this whole process of doing both personal and team coaching to show this other side of how we could do things. And I still remember up to this day how awkward it was for us the first meeting that you facilitated. Really. I mean, what is happening here? What is this tool? What is this structure? Why that person that I know that talks very loud, why isn't that person doing the same thing? And suddenly the pressure that I felt was fading away. And the end result of the meeting itself was pretty great. We had a clear goal and we achieved it, which was quite surprising because I need to emphasize how much time we waste. Sometimes we just talk and talk, and we don't have a structure. We don't have techniques to do it. This is a key, and we can explore later on the liberating structures. But my point is the key result that was feeling unleashed and liberated, it felt really good and it improved the results of the team. And I really recommend everyone to do the same. And yeah, I'm pretty glad that we met you, Sarah.
Wow.
And, what?
Thank you. I remember a moment in one of our first sessions that I had with you, personal development session. And my prejudgment, everyone has a bias. They can't help it. You have this like first moment, you get to know someone, and you being from a more Latin culture, and you have this Latin lover look about you, it's easy to judge you as being someone not that serious. So that was my first impression of you. And then I took you into the personal development sessions. They're quite intense. So you can tell the audience how intense they are. It's not normal one-on-ones. We go through a giant process. I find out the core values of everyone in my team. And not only the core values, I want to know what their personal mission is. What is the vision that they see for themselves? We even talk about monsters in rooms that are going to make sure that you fail. And I help you find the mantras you need in order to tame those monsters. Anyway, back to that first session, there's a moment where I ask you to fill in the eco cycle and the things that you are doing that are taking up your time and the things that you're doing which are, let's say, helping you progress in your personal development or hindering it, and also the relationships that you have that might help you progress or hinder your personal development. And you have to fill it out in the different parts of the eco cycle. Is it a seed? Is it an idea that you have? Or is it more mature, something that you have quite developed? Is it something that you should creatively destruct so that you can make more space for other things in your life? Anyway, we will go into details about this particular liberating structure in another video. What I noticed was how deep you were. Your input in these cards was long. They, instead of having just a few words, there was like a paragraph for each one, and they were retrospective. They were inner. I could see this man here thinks and feels deeply. And I was so happy to have a process in the way that I coach to be able to discover this. So even though I am human and I have also first impressions, every human does, but the process that I have in making space for those on my team to come alive and be themselves and be seen and be heard and be respected allowed you to grow there in front of me and come into hypercolor. And you were on my radar from that point forward as somebody that I valued a lot. I was so happy to be able to coach you into becoming a Scrum Master. You were lovely to coach. You were so coachable. And just watching you bloom into the person you are today, empowered and knowing of who you are.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And you touch a very good topic, being unleashed. And I really like this feeling. I'm mentioning it multiple times because it really feels good, that I wanted also to boost it to my connections, boost it within my team. And that's why I wanted to formally be a Scrum Master, because this way I would be coaching my team and each one of the team members, and applying these techniques and seeing the results later on. It's just impressive. And then also something popped into my mind, Sarah. You mentioned that I am and was very coachable. I was looking for it. I was thriving to just know more, know how you do it, know how to build very stretching and exciting goals. But how do you approach someone that doesn't want to be coached, or perhaps someone that is growing so much already that perhaps this person thinks that he doesn't need coaching because there are lots of potential already? How was this for you?
This is something, being a manager, now a director, I encounter actually with people in my teams. And the way that I coach people is just like the way that I encourage for you to have peer reviews. I don't know if you remember the first time I introduced to you what a peer review is and how it should be done. One of the most important parts that a manager, a leader, a coach, an agile coach, a Scrum Master, anyone, even a mother or father, should keep in mind is that every individual knows themselves best, and to trust them in their self-knowing. I give people the space that they need when they don't feel quite ready yet to grow. Or maybe, as you said, they maybe are already have grown a lot in the last year and they just want to pause and reflect and take in the environment. How can I say that I know better than you? You know yourself best. So if I have somebody in one of my teams and I'm going to start coaching them, I always first ask the question, do they want to be coached? Do they want to have these personal development sessions? And they may say no. And my answer is, that's okay. It's your choice if you want this. Of course, I'm also their manager usually, so I will have an extra remark that I will make. At some point in the year, I will have to calibrate what they're doing and how they're doing it and what impact they're making in the organization. And when I do this calibration, I'm taking a look at how they are behaving, what impact they are making, whether or not they are ready for the next step. The coaching is separate. This is like a gift that I give to them if they want to take it to help them improve their behavior or perhaps increase their impact. If they want to embark on that journey of growth on their own, that's fine. I don't need to be the one that brings them there. But it's also fine if they say, you know what? I don't want to grow right now, or I don't need to grow right now. And I will still have to grade them, but just that we have made this exchange of expectations, that I'm not going to judge them for having not taken my coaching. I will just be looking at the facts at that point in the future. I know in my life, I've had some big falls. One of the big falls in my life was my divorce. I felt my world falling down around me. There were months where I didn't have more than 50 euros to spend on groceries for my kids per week. And I had to do everything that I could to make sure I had furniture in a home so that my kids could sleep at my place. And I was working at that time as a senior software engineer. And I always did my best to be professional. When I would walk in that door, when I would go to work, I'm going to be professional. I'm going to do my job. Like I left my stuff at the door as best as I could. But at those moments, if I was asked to grow and to improve myself, I couldn't. Because as, I don't know, the Maslow triangle, I wasn't feeling secure. I wasn't having psychological safety. And when you don't have psychological safety, when you're not feeling secure, when you're down in your life, you may be able to maintain business. You can still write the code. You can still be a human and have conversations with your colleagues, but it's not going to be the time for me to go on some big personal development journey. And if I would have, and actually at that time I did, I had a mentor and he wanted me to grow. He wanted me to develop and to get better. And what are you doing to improve yourself? And it was awful for me to, I felt even worse every time I would go to work because I would feel this shame on myself that I'm not growing when I shouldn't have felt that. Because like I said, I was acting professional and I was maintaining my work and I was doing the best I could. And maybe I wouldn't have gotten a big raise that year, but I wouldn't have felt bad about that. What I felt bad about was that I couldn't be the grower that was expected of me at that time. I just wanted to be seen and heard, not judged. Just take a look at what I'm doing and the progress that I'm making and the stories that I was completing and judge only on that. And when things got good in my life again, when finally I had a home and I was able to start to build up my income again, when I started to feel more peace within, I had a lot of therapy, by the way. At some point, I felt like now it's time to grow. Now I want to take on some courses. I want to take on some new skills because at that point, I'm ready. And that's how it's going to be with people in your teams. They're all humans. And it's important for a leader to recognize that. And when I say leader, I don't know if you remember, João, being a scrum master in my team. What did I tell you and Christian that you were? You were future leaders. I wasn't teaching you how to be a scrum master. I was teaching you how to be leaders. And I think that's what's important. I didn't just coach you and Christian into being leaders. I coach my software engineers into being leaders. I feel like there's this skill set that it shouldn't be reserved just for the leaders, just for the managers, just for the coaches and stuff. Every single human being can learn these skills. And that's what I wanted to bring to you guys. I wanted to liberate you guys so that you could self-lead and inadvertently start leading others. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I went on a tangent here and there, but
It was perfect, Sarah. Really.
thank you. I sometimes go on tangents, I know.
And what I can tell is that once you hit that place, be it as a leader or a team member that is experiencing these feelings and these achievements, you can never go back. You can never go back.
Yeah.
And let's say, Sarah, that I would be in this position right now. Really, I would be thriving to be liberated, to be coached. But of course, I don't work with you. I'm not your direct report. You are not my manager. Is it possible to still get it, to be coached without this link between being manager and report? Perhaps through Avagasso Coaching?
Yeah, I actually have quite a few people which I meet with on a more regular basis. Until this point, I always did it for free. Maybe at some point I should actually charge for this. But I am a coach. I help them when they want help, or I'm their mentor. When I used to work at Bowl.com, I was called a few times the incubator. When a manager was having a problem with somebody in their team, somebody that wasn't feeling present, or even the team was rejecting them, or they were, let's say, on that HR path out, perhaps, they would reach out to me because I was known for being able to incubate a person back into service, let's say. And actually, one of my best reports that I've ever had was one of those people. She's an amazing engineer. She just wasn't seen. And she didn't thrive because she wasn't seen. Helping people or coaching people, it's something you can do every day. But it's important not to go into it of this like all-knowing, like, oh, I'm this person that knows more than you and you've got to listen to me or something. When you learn how to really coach, it's actually about listening. It's about hearing the story and seeing that person and maybe recognizing some little spark inside of them that they don't even see yet. And you could have that with just a conversation that you have with one of your good friends, and they're telling you about their experience and that maybe they're feeling something or they've been someplace, and you just notice this little spark and you just bring it up like, do you see that spark too? And then you listen again. Everyone can listen. And so, yeah, you can, everyone. Coaching's not about telling people what to do or how to do it or how they can be better. That's just snobby. That's just all knowing, like, I know better how you should be living your life. Coaching is allowing someone their own truth and allowing them to get there in the way that they feel most prepared to get there. And if it takes them more time, giving them that time. If they fall down, not laughing at them, but instead standing next to them on their journey and being supportive. And supportive does not mean taking it over for them. It just means standing there beside them, knowing that you probably don't know how it is to be them because you aren't them, but always trusting what they say. That's coaching. So you can do that with everyone. Yes.
That's really awesome, Sarah.
Thank you.
What was the moment that you found this calling to start coaching people? And is there any link between coaching and liberating structures?
I have to say, most likely after all of my therapy, the superpower of seeing people was developed in my childhood. I had quite an extreme childhood. I'm not going to talk about it here, but it did result in trauma of sorts. And I had to develop this hyper ability to recognize others so that I could have my place. At that early time in my life, it wasn't always the healthiest feature of me, but it did create this superpower of me. When I got older and I became more differentiated and I became more understanding of that just because I'm seeing things, it doesn't mean that it's really there, that I need to ask and I need to still observe and to believe the truth of others. It then became something of a superpower for good because I would ask the right questions. I would notice things that others wanted, and then I would give the space back to others. When I was young, I was not very good at giving the space back to others. I was probably that all-knowing type that I was talking about before, like, let me help you. Although I have to say, when I was young too, I had friends, which sometimes I felt like I was a therapist because I would always have those friends that would have problems, and then they would come to me to tell me about all of their problems, and I would help them. And it didn't always feel that good. It felt sometimes like I was used. It was, of course, helpful in some ways, but probably not always healthy until I got older. You mentioned something about liberating structures. I can tell you the story about how they came into my life. Being a woman engineer, my journey was freaking tough. I remember in one of my university courses, my university professor actually to me as the girl. That's how few women there were. I was the girl in the class. I hated it when he did that, by the way. I just would shrink like, oh my God, what's he going to say about me? I felt very often in my engineering journey unheard. I felt unseen. I felt judged. You don't know how many times I would hear things like, you're getting emotional, you just need to calm down, like referred to the woman in the room. Or I would bring up an idea and it would be dismissed or not heard until a guy would say it. Or there were a lot of situations like that. But there's one recurring situation that really stands out when it's tied to liberating structures. I was working at a company and I was in a Scrum team and we would have retrospectives. And there were a few times in the retros where, not just retrospectives, refinements of stories, because it's really technical related. I always mix up those words, where I would come up with a suggestion for solution and nobody would hear it, and the meeting would go on. And then a guy would bring up the same suggestion and then the meeting would be finished. Great solution. So I was observing this and I was feeling quite disempowered. I was feeling small. And I asked one of my good colleagues in my team, he and I were really good friends, if he would do an experiment with me. And he asked, what experiment? And I said, I feel like something's going on in these meetings and I'm not quite sure. I need some kind of validation if it's true. So we agreed that in the next refinement session, I was going to come up with a solution. And if he could write it down word for word on his paper and then wait like 10 minutes and then say word for word exactly the same words. It had to be the same words. Otherwise, the experiment would not work. If he would say it, and I just wanted to see what happens. You have to know this guy was like a super smart guy. Everyone knew him as the super genius in the team. I think he was even one of the original authors of our code. He was quite brilliant. And he agreed to this. And I remember at the time, he was like, I don't think that's happening. I think it's in your head, but I'll do this experiment for you. So he didn't notice it at that time. So we decided to do this experiment. And I said a solution. 10 minutes later, he said word for word the same. The meeting would finish because he had a great idea. We decided to repeat this in 3 other meetings after that. Same thing happened 3 times in a row. And then at that point, he brought up to the rest of the team what was happening. Do you guys notice that was Sarah's idea? That was not my idea. I didn't stay at that company very long. I decided to leave that company. But at that point, I got sick of it. I got sick of not being heard. It was like I became desperate. If I'm going to be an engineer, I need to find a way to be respected and heard. And I don't know what it is, but there must be something I can do. Because you can't change others. You can only change yourself. Like, there must be something. It was this great opportunity fell in my lap. Somebody asked me if I wanted to participate in a liberating structure immersion workshop. And it was in person. It was before COVID, long before. So I think if I remember around 2017, something like that. So I'm one of the earlier people that did it. I remember Christian and Barry were actually in the meeting, the liberators. It was over 3 days. And some people from America were actually in it. It was quite big. It was amazing. And there was this amazing tool set where everyone had a space to speak. And not only that, it would bring us to some kind of action or bring us to, it would liberate our minds. Everyone could participate. They were easy to learn. And there was always a result. There was always something to do. And I felt like with these tools, I could get my voice. So I went back to my company, the company I worked at the time, and I was like, can I introduce a circle? Because we worked with holacracy. So there were circles in the organization. So you could create a circle as long as there was a purpose and there were people that wanted to join it. So we created a circle liberating that company. And the first liberating structure that I facilitated, I actually brought Barry and Christiane, and they had some other people that they worked with. It was before they were the liberators. They were some version of that before. I was so nervous. I think it was what's it called? The one where you ask, my mind is blanking. The one where you ask people to say the worst possible scenario and then you like go back.
Is it a tris?
Yeah, tris. So it was I was like thinking Trojan horse in my head, but it's a tris. So I had to facilitate the tris. And I remember being in the middle and I felt so nervous. It's like a similar feeling that I got when I was on the stage of the presentation for Code Motion. And afterwards, the facilitators, Barry and whoever that was there, they said, wow, Sarah, you did so good. And I was just like, oh my God, but I was so nervous or something. But you know what? I finally felt this tool set it gave me this feeling of I could actually facilitate. I could actually do something to help change not being heard. So I brought it back to my Scrum team. I told my Scrum Master, hey, do you mind if I facilitate the next retro using these new tools? And I was a person that never facilitated anything because I had massive stage fright. But this tool set gave me the confidence that I could step through these meetings and stuff. It was amazing. You asked something about liberating structures, what brought me into it. I had this passion that came alive in me. Everyone needs to use these everywhere as much as I can. I even used it with my own daughter at home, the Troca Consulting. It freaking works. How about you? Like, I guess your first experience of liberating structures was when I brought it to you and your team. But when did it become a passion for you? And how did you bring it forward? How did it feel to do your first facilitation?
It was freaking hard. But it was tough. Just like you mentioned, you brought this concept, this idea, and from the first moment that I saw it in action, without knowing that the techniques that you used had liberating structures in the backstage, right? I already knew, all right, I have no idea what she did, but I want to learn and I want to do the same. And then, of course, we started our coaching sessions and we started talking about it. And you asked me about the first moment that I facilitated the session. And I remember that I really studied hard. I had this session. If I'm not mistaken, it was a retrospective after I stepped up as a Scrum Master of one of the innovation teams. And that team in particular was using Kanban as way of working, and we were switching to Scrum. And I remember that I would study hard, like, all right, so these are all the liberating structures that we have. These are the goals. These are the steps. So which ones am I going to combine? And I would really follow the rules line by line and time boxing everything and stating to everyone, all right, now we are using this structure and our goal is this. So whatever I do, I always try to do my utmost best at all times. And I do have high standards of myself. And I remember the feeling of spending all the energy that I had available and even extra to prepare for that session. It was like a 2-hour session, but I was like preparing for at least one full week. I was always thinking about it. And when the session ended, I thought, all right, so it was not the result that I wished, and I failed. But the feedback that I received from the team was otherwise.
So you didn't
To
fail,
the
actually.
Indeed. And that moment was very important to me because that was the first time that I applied something on regards of becoming a liberator. And it is very funny because after you do it, after you practice it for a long time, of course, it becomes easier. You let go of the structures and you start to do it your style. You build your own strings and it just becomes natural. You won't even state that you are using a structure because it's so automated that you know your goal, you know what you want to achieve, and it just happens. And after a while, let's say I've been doing it for what, Sarah, 2 years already or something like
I
this?
think actually getting closer to 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And comparing like your evolution, of course, as a coach, as a facilitator, like if you compare it when I started and now, and also the results in the teams that you coach and the people that you coach is amazing. Like it really gives me so much energy and joy to see that you really impacted not only the company, but the people within it. You see that not just me, but everyone that I'm connected to, they learn more about themselves. They learn more about inclusion. They learn more about being effective. We don't waste time anymore. And I mentioned some key points about my career path up to this point. And for every single moment that I felt bad in a meeting, in a conversation or something, I was not feeling heard. And now I feel.
Yeah. And what's amazing is liberating structures give everyone the space to be heard, but they also, the meetings using them don't take that much time. It's amazing how they are more concise, the meetings, but everyone is a part of it, really. And you actually get to a
Exactly.
result. How many meetings were you a part of where there was just talk and you still didn't feel heard?
Exactly. And if you try to find a pattern in between these moments, the bad ones, the one that it is very highlighted to me and it is very important to me is having a safe environment. So we didn't have anything that would resemble a safe environment at all. And this is actually one of the motivations that I have to go forward and to impact more people and to spread the seed is whenever I'm in a place that I don't find a safe environment, I create it myself. I really go for it and try to understand what's in the way and how can we boost it. And once you create a safe environment, you will see the results right away. Whenever something happens from that moment on, it will be natural for you and your team to just chat about it and propose solutions. Everyone is empowered to do so.
Oh my goodness. And I had in my previous company a report, which was a young professional. And you don't know how often somebody is hindered in their growth because they are not yet a meteor or senior. And the seniors are really wanting to help by solving things and talking and sharing their solutions and stuff. But there's no space for that young professional, that new junior on the team to grow. And liberating structures just gives everyone that opportunity to contribute. It doesn't mean that the team is going to necessarily move forward with a solution which is not fully developed, but bits and pieces of that solution are coming from all parts of the team. And to feel like you're contributing to the overall solution, it helps you grow. It helps you turn into eventually a future senior.
Exactly. Yeah, you make a very good point, Sarah. I mean, I am a software engineer and I can't count how many times I've seen a little word that someone said that really sparked new ideas in everyone's minds. And the solution that we were designing went to a whole new way. So it doesn't matter what you say, even if you don't know the topic,
No.
if you create space for everyone to just state what's on their mind, it will contribute a
It,
lot for the final
it becomes
solution that I can.
exponential. It's like, boop, 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 oh. And maybe at the
Exactly.
end, it's the senior that comes up with that epiphany. But even that senior cannot get to that epiphany without all of those ideas from everyone in the room. Sometimes the most amazing sparks I got were from the young professionals, from people that saw the world with new eyes. My own daughter, she's 14 years old, and she'll say something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, amazing. I'm going to take that in. So, of course, there's something about wisdom and experience, but the sparks and the fires and that epiphany of developed thought comes from everyone in the room.
Yeah, we need to work smart, right?
Yeah.
We need to work together.
So, João, I think this was a good conversation. What do you think?
It was amazing. Had a great time here, and I hope you guys also had it.
Yeah, I hope that you will want more of this. And I think it's important that you subscribe to our channel, like this video, so that we know that we're doing the right thing here. Right, Joel?
Exactly.
Yeah. I hope everyone has a great week. It's kind of cold here.
Very rainy.
Yeah, but it gives us the excuse to sit inside and be warm and cozy with our family, right? Or our friends.
Indeed. If you have any ideas, any comments, please place them below, and hope to see you all in our next episode.
Yeah, we're really interested in your comments, any questions you have. If you want to hear about the courses that we're giving or you want to be coached, you can go to avagasso.com, click on Quest, Learning Quest. There we have some service offerings. Or if you just want to listen to this YouTube channel, click like, subscribe, and we're looking forward to the next time we see you. So thank you for today. I'm really looking forward
Thanks,
to this.
Sarah.
This was fun. Bye, everyone.